That is a cool logo. I really like that logo. Number 41. Chit Chats with Git Cats, number 41. And tonight where I am, it's 9 p.m. in my part of the world, Gold Coast, Australia. I think it's afternoon in Germany, where there is, ding dong, who's at my front door? It is none other than Dan Gäthke from Ibanez. How you doing, Dan?
Hey, Rick. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, mate. I was just taking a guess then. It is afternoon in Germany, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
1 o'clock, like just right afternoon, and sun is shining. Everything's all right.
Nice one. It's midsummer over there?
Yep.
Yeah. We're midwinter here. And my midwinter is probably about the same as your midsummer.
I was about to say that.
Are you guys getting the heat wave? Like, all my English friends are all complaining about the heat wave. And I asked them, what are you calling a heat wave? And they're like, oh, man, it's like 25 degrees. And I'm laughing because the middle of the day here in winter is 25 degrees. So how is it there?
That's so cool. Well, 25 degrees is basically the average at the moment. Yeah, but you ain't gonna hear me like complain about the sun, because I love the sun. I love good weather, and I'm usually not too much into like November, December, those kind of months where you get less light and very little sun. So I'm a summer guy. Summer guy
for sure.
Cool. Yeah.
As well as being a summer guy, you're the Ibanez guy. You am I right in thinking you started out as a pretty big Ibanez fanboy, and now you've ended up working for them?
Yeah,
what was the story there? How did you come to work for Ibanez, and what is your role at Ibanez?
All right. Well, that's two questions in one.
It is.
Let me try to narrow it down. It's not too long of a story. Like you said, I started being an Ibanez fan because I started playing the electric guitar at the age 7. My first guitar was an Ibanez, actually like a borrowed guitar, and later my first real proper guitar was an Ibanez. So I kind of grew into that role to become like a fan of the brand, and I really like, checking out the catalogs at night and putting them under the pillow, fantasizing about what my next model could be. And over time, I kind of I was like a sponge, like soaking up all the information and all specs and the history and all that stuff. So I went really deep into the whole like Ibanez Hoshino material. Mm-hmm. And about the time when I was regularly I would go to trade shows like Music Messe, and always went to the Ibanez booth and met the people behind that. And this is like where some people sometimes get confused, because you say I'm the Ibanez guy. I'm kind of sorta, but sorta also not, because I'm like employed at one of the biggest distributors for Ibanez. I'm employed at Meinl, and we're working with the Japanese for more than 60 years. And this is why we are acting as like Ibanez Germany as an entity, like basically like almost appear like a sister company kind of thing, which we aren't like legally, but in terms of the projects that we do, in terms of the development of the brand, we're basically all sitting in the same boat, and we're sharing the same vision, and it's intertwined big time, and it's also both is family business. Meinl Cymbals and Meinl Distribution is family-owned business. Hoshino is family-owned business. So that's pretty similar, and also the Japanese culture is also pretty close to the German culture. So usually, the business routines they fit pretty well. Oh, cool. But now back to the story. Yeah, back to the story. Like so Meinl was in charge, or is in charge of Ibanez for, like I said, more than 60 years. And at Music Messe, I used to go to the booth and always buy some merch. So I met the Meinl family, and they got to know me. And when it was time during my studies to do a mandatory internship, I was thinking, what am I going to do? In the early 20s, you don't have that kind of clear vision of what you want to do. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, I could try that. And always at that time, I already had like an acceptance for an internship at a telecommunication company, and I was thinking like, is that really what I want? So I sent out an email to Mrs. Meinl, the senior boss, and ask her if I could like join for a couple of months as a trainee, basically. And she wrote back, usually we don't have trainees from the university because we're like a small, medium-sized company, and blah, blah, blah. So, okay, well, I thought it was a nice try, but never mind. But then a couple of weeks later, she wrote me back, you know what, let's meet and let's see if we can, find a way to do that. And long story short, I ended up being there for 6 months. I think they liked me, hope so. They probably liked what I did during that time. And then I returned, finished my studies, went to another university, earned my PhD in international management, and that fit very well together with the time when Meinl decided to go international, because they were rather like German and Austrian centric during the time, not like exporting their cymbals and stuff, but not really as a big distributor, big in various territories. But that fit pretty well at that time that I was like majoring in international management, international business, and they had some visions and some plans to go international. So it was like a coincidence that at Messe I talked with Mr. Meinl, and he said, "What are you doing now?" And I said, "Well, I'm just finishing my PhD in international management." And he said, "It's interesting. We should probably have a talk." And at that time there was a big like concentration and also consolidation of brands at Meinl as a distributor. You know, we used to have like 20, 25 brands, various brands, competing products and all that stuff. But at that time, there was that company vision of narrowing it down to only the A brands, to do the most important brands. And these are basically the Hoshino brands, Ibanez and Tama, and our own brands, which is Meinl Percussion and Meinl Cymbals during that time. And so I started working there. At the time, there was a short period where I was in charge of the Darrow operations. And after that, I switched to Ibanez, and well, the rest is kind of history. From there, I kind of took it over and got it rolling, and we're doing pretty well. I think the work with the Japanese is great. I really appreciate what we do and what we achieve together. And it's like, yeah, basically it's a dream job really, and a dream come true to be able to work for the company that are really, you know, behind, and that you believe in, and that you play at home, you know. And it's one of the best things that could happen. Yeah,
that is very cool, man. That's very cool. Now, the name Ibanez, Ibanez.
Correcto.
Yeah. So a lot of people probably don't realize it's a Spanish name, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
How did a Japanese company end up with a Spanish name like Ibanez?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, nowadays it's not so uncommon. If you take a look at brands like ice cream Häagen-Dazs or something, that's an American brand that suggests to be like a Danish or Swedish or something company. But back in the day, it was more like a coincidence, because Hoshino actually Hoshino is based in Nagoya in Japan, and they started their business as like basically a bookstore with some additional side business. And at that time, there was a lot of new music trends going on, and there was just a demand. It's really a matter of demand. You know, you see those kind of entrepreneurs that at that time have a business, and then they see, okay, there's a demand for a certain product group or certain item, and then they take that on and they build that up. And with Hoshino, it was pretty much the same, that there was a demand for guitars and classical guitars. So they got in contact with a guitar manufacturer in Valencia in Spain called Salvador Ibanez, which is a renowned name during that time. I think he built guitars for a lot of great guys, and he was one of the main manufacturer of prototypical classical guitars made in Spain. So Hoshino started importing that. You know, they started their own like kind of international career as a distributor, not necessarily as a manufacturer.
Yep.
And that went on for a couple of years. But at a certain point, I think there was a civil war in Spain, and up to this date, it's not quite clear how the whole business model ended or the relation ended. But they decided, okay, if we cannot meet the demand in the market with importing that stuff, why don't we build it ourselves with like contracting companies, you know, manufacturers that build guitars under our name. And since they were already selling kind of Salvador Ibanez guitars, they probably thought that Ibanez is a very Spanish and guitar kind of sounding name, and they sticked with that. So there was that differentiation between Salvador Ibanez as the handcrafted Spanish guitar, and then they had their own Ibanez guitar line, and from there the rest really is history. So they started building guitars, getting experience in how to build guitars, and you know, researching the market, what the market really needs, and from there it all develops. And you know, they went into that what nowadays is called the pre-lawsuit area, where era. Where they started copying guitars at a tremendous level of quality, which led ultimately to Gibson suing them for not using, no longer using the open book headstock and the similar shapes.
So what kind of year are we talking? What years are we talking about here?
Well, the Salvador Ibanez, that was 1929, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
So until 1935-ish, And then there was Civil War, and there was World War II afterwards too. So basically, like after World War II, the whole guitar business really kept up, and there was, I think that was a baby boomer phase. So there was a lot of consumption after the whole turmoil settled, and and they built up Ibanez, and the lawsuit era ended in the mid 70s. I think 1976 was the last year when they built guitars that were exactly one-on-one copies to Gibsons and Fenders. And man, those guitars, they were great. And actually that also dates back to my personal relation with Ibanez, because I'm from Germany, and during the Cold War, there was the Iron Curtain. And in East Germany, you could not get any kind of Western instruments at a good or even a reasonable price. If you would buy a Fender or Gibson guitar at that time, you'd have to spend what would equal, let's say, $20,000 nowadays.
Wow.
Yeah, for like a regular production model, because it was so hard to import that, because officially it was forbidden. But however, they had the copies, and Ibanez was one of the best brands that floated around at that time, and that is why so many like people from, let's say, Poland and Germany, Eastern Germany and Hungary, etc. They are like they grew up kind of with Ibanez as a brand, and most often with copies, and then later, of course, they were interested in their very own models too. Yeah, and from 76, I mean, that is really when it kicked off, because in the mid 70s, Ibanez was very good, but a copycat.
Yeah.
But from there, the whole lawsuit kind of opened their eyes that if they wanted to have a future as a brand, they needed to really kind of come up with something innovative and something that is different compared to others. And actually, this is something 2 or 3 years ago, I met the old chairman, Yoshi Hoshino, who's in his, I don't want to say something wrong, but mid 80s, early 90s. Like he's already a senior, and in terms of his age, but he has that kind of vision of being innovative in his DNA. So when he talks about the brand, it's always about innovating and finding something new. And this is really part of the Ibanez DNA. And this is also what kind of started it all, when they came up with the Iceman design in the late 70s, and they came up with, various kind of new designs, and basically also this, which kind of defined the whole era. Not just as a signature model, but also with the RG line as one of the like household names for rock guitars and super strats kind of.
Cool. So you said Iceman, was that their first original model?
That should be like the first real original model, yeah. I mean, they altered the headstock shapes and sold some single cuts and double cuts, but like the real like new model, like off the scratch, that should have been the Iceman, yeah.
Wow, and that's such a different shape or design to anything else out there, isn't it? So when you say innovation, they totally went, well, we've been making these copies, let's just do something completely original. Iceman, wow. And then, so who were the first big known players to start using Ibanez?
That's a good question. I mean, there were some heroes like Joe Pass back in the day, or even like Steve Lukather had a short-lived career as an Ibanez artist. There's actually a Steve Lukather signature Ibanez guitar, yeah.
Wow, okay.
SL, I think it's called the SL 2020. It's like a kind of Stratty style with a super nice turquoise top. It's a cool guitar, but very short-lived. So it's kind of hard to say, because a lot of those names, they were kind of short-lived, but there are artists from the mid 80s that stuck with the brand until today. Of course, starting with Steve Vai, with Joe Satriani. I mean, later they had Schofield in the 90s, and I mean, it's way too many to mention them. It's always also interesting to see how well those kind of artists are treated. They are gods, basically.
Sure. So I started playing guitar in the late 80s, probably. Yeah. We were talking off air before, and we said that you started playing some Dire Straits, and I said, man, that Mark Knopfler was my first big guitar idol. So that was probably 86, 87 when I first started. And that's around the time when Steve Vai, Satriani, all those kinds of guys started playing Ibanez as well. And that's what really made it explode, wasn't it? having
Yeah,
guys like
absolutely.
that. And like the whole RG series. Did the RG series come out after the Gem? Is it true that Steve Vai came up with the Gem guitar and they come up with that, and then they made a cheaper version which became the RG? Is that how that worked?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the story how it's told. By the way, I forgot George Benson is one of the longest time
Oh yeah,
endorsees.
sure.
I just wanted that because he was very very instrumental for the whole development, also in the jazz segment for Ibanez guitar. So they had a reputation at that point to really be a jazz brand. But going back to the Gem, I think that is the original idea, that they kind of designed the whole guitar for Steve, and then they made up their minds, how can we put that into a guitar that is mass producible at a reasonable price, and that was what ultimately became the RG.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Now I'm going to get you to show us a bit closer at that. But before we do that, I'm just going to point out that there's somebody watching right now, Ben, and Ben is the guy that lent me the Chrome Boy. You saw that I had the Chrome Boy last week. I was recording a bit of a cover for the IK Multimedia Satch Pack that's coming out real soon, and. So I know Ben was selling that, and I thought before that goes, I'm going to quickly just record a bit of a cover with that. So he's got the Chrome Boy. You have got the Relic Gem, which is like a 1-to-1 copy of Steve Vai's #1 Evo, isn't it?
Yeah. That was a guitar that came out to commemorate 25 years of cooperation between Steve and Ibanez. And
how many of those were made?
Well, 100.
That's #1?
No, well, they are all labeled 1 of 100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a bit tricky.
I don't know which. I know. I don't know which number it is, because, like I said, that's from the company archive. Mr. Meinl in the 70s decided to keep like one guitar of every single model.
Yeah.
And so we have. I mean, not necessarily every single model when it comes to its finishes, but now we have an archive of more than 3,000 guitars, and basically old Satrianis, old Gilberts, old Petrucci's, and also this little piece. And it's a treat that I get to manage that archive. So I decide, which guitars we put out for some exhibitions, and which guitars go into the archive when specific models are discontinued. So it's not a burden, it's a privilege to do that.
Uh-huh. So talking innovation, now Steve Vai really did innovate quite a lot when he came out with the Gem. I saw some recent videos of him talking of just the design concepts and everything that he had. And you've got the Gem there, but that one is based on his personal #1 Evo, so that's been modified even more over the years. But just looking at that one, what kind of innovations did Steve Vai come up with that then inspired the RG series?
Well, I think the overall shape was something that was quite radical at that time, because back in the day, all the guitars used to be very, very smooth and round. Yep. And he wanted to go with a more edgy design. So I hope you can see that better if I hold it like this. So a lot of like kind of sharp edges, but not like uncomfortable sharp. It's more like it's more like a design statement, basically. It's super comfy, but it looks like a sports car. And I mean, what Steve did is they came up with the edge tremolo. So this is like a knife tremolo that is double locking, so you can do all the crazy whammy bar stuff with it. And that was at that time, Van Halen. It was just a must, as a guitar manufacturer. If you didn't have like a double locking guitar, you didn't have customers. And
absolutely,
Ibanez has always been a brand that came up with their own design. So they didn't just like buy the patent from Floyd Rose or something, maybe for some parts or some ideas, but they always kind of manufactured their own hardware. And the Edge is one of the iconic original designs. And up to this day, you can find these on the JS models, on Vice, like the new Pia, this exact tremolo, and also on a lot of RGs. So now, it really has...
the whole concept of being able to pull up, was that a Steve Vai design? I know that's got the special claw looking thing there, but just in general, routing behind so that the trem could pull up, was that something innovative, or were people already doing that?
I'm not quite sure, because I'm pretty sure that somewhere in the world there were people that were doing that, because those kind of playing styles, it's not something that Steve created like off the cuff or out of the blue. It was there, but like he was very let's say, very, very assertive when it came to how he wanted to do those. And those kind of lion claws, they make sure that even no matter in which position you have the tremolo, it never gets stuck.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, he was very insisting on that. Also, like the HSH configuration of pickups, that was kind of
Did I see
unusual.
him say that he actually came up with the splitting so that when you're in the positions 2 and 4, that they were splitting the coils? Was that a Steve Vai innovation as well? Or am I making shit up again? I'm probably making shit up again.
It's definitely something that he required and that he requested to have on his model. So it's probably not something that was new, but it was something that he considered as being like a requirement on his guitar. So that was a necessity, and there was no way of circumventing that with something different. He needed that sound, and he was very, very, insistent on having that. And I mean, what else is there? We have some scallops on the 21st to 24th fret. So there's a little bit of scalloping, so you get closer. Of course, the neck shape. I mean, those wizard or super wizard necks, they are super thin. So it's very comfortable if you're a very technical player. Mm-hmm. So this is part of the Ibanez DNA, because they always appeal to the very technical players. And so if you play on those necks and you get used to that, you can never go back to those baseball bats on any other guitar. And there are so many like small design ideas. Like the Gem Evo came X Factory with this little tape here, and so you can have a pick holder.
Is that what that is?
Here
okay, because I was thinking, man, that the shape looks different to what I'm used to.
Yeah,
and that's what that is.
Yeah, so yeah. And the Pia nowadays has like the magnet on the back plate, so you can just take it off. I mean, there are so many unique ideas. This is, for example, a feature that I could totally see as a regular feature on a lot of guitars in 5 years from now. And I think this is one of the big parts of Steve Vai's contribution to overall guitar design and the development of the guitar, that he was so innovative, but also very insisting on certain features to be part of a signature line, but also of the regular production line, like the RGs. Yeah.
Okay, so there was a question in the chat room there. You were just saying about that collection of guitars, which you said was up to about 3,000. Is that on display somewhere? Can people see that online?
Unfortunately, not yet. If you follow us on Ibanez Germany Instagram, we are about to restart. Usually, we had some guitar festivals back in the day. We already hosted 3 big guitar festivals with Steve Vai and Paul Gilbert headlining. And usually during those festivals, we have like an exhibition where we show a part of it. But it's like an exhibition where you get to learn more. It's not just, we put the guitars there and then people can try them out. We have like the story behind that. We show pictures, we show some background stories, and that is really like the added value of taking part. So if there ever will be another Ibanez Guitar Festival, I'm not saying it will not, that might be the place to go and check out those guitars.
Cool. So back to that relic, the Evo that you've got there. There's a few things that Steve has done on his personal, which they've copied on that there, as opposed to the production model gems. What little idiosyncrasies are on that aren't on the regular production model gem?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, this is also like, it basically represents a certain time in Steve's development. So for instance, on his new guitars and on his regular guitars that he plays for a lot of songs, he has a sustain neck here in the neck position.
Yep.
So that is different to that guitar. But what is a true Vai idiosyncrasy is, for instance, to have the gaffer tape right here. Yep. So he puts the gaffer tape on the pickup, so the high E strings don't get stuck there when he plays, because his intricate playing, especially with the whammy bar action, that could happen. Mm-hmm. Also, Steve added recently some switching options here for the sustain neck, and then you see the different knobs that probably allow him to navigate a little bit easier and to know exactly in which position he wants to have what, the volume and the tone. Apart from that, it's not super like special in a way that you could not like modify an RG in a similar way, or a regular jam. So I think the magic about that model was that it's an exact replica of what Steve used to play, so you get a little bit of that feeling to be Steve Vai.
Now, I know that Steve's actual Evo has got a crack down on that starts on the neck joint that runs all the way down the back, and they've replicated it there, haven't they? Well, because there it is. Because I've heard him say that for years he's been waiting for that guitar to just fall apart in his hands anytime. And now that's not a real crack, is it? They've just done the paint.
No.
Because that would be disastrous.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
But here's a story. The thing is, when Steve's on tour, it could happen that you get a call, and it's Thomas Nordic, his guitar tech, and he says, "You know what? Tomorrow we'll be in Nuremberg. Could you bring another neck?" And you say, "Well, okay, we can." And then you're there, and like 2 or 3 hours before the actual gig, he swaps the neck on his guitar.
Yeah, okay. Because I've seen him with the equal temperament frets, the squiggly frets. So I can see that he's tried that and tried a whole bunch of different things. So he is one to swap it out, but just keep the one body, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not quite sure if Evo is still like being used live, but at that time the guitar was about to fall apart. But that is something that you see with so many musicians that stick to like one instrument. There's like if you check out Steve Morse and his #1 guitar for Music Man, that guitar is also about to disintegrate just at a certain point of time. Also, Andy Timmons with his AT100.
Yep.
Such a lovely guitar, super old, I think from '92, but it's a wonder that it guitar plays like it plays,
And especially these guys have their own signature models, so you'd think they'd be able to just go, time for a new one, but no, they got their old favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, they are worn in. I can totally understand that. If you spend 20 plus years of playing an instrument, it resonates with you. It becomes a part of yourself.
Cool. So, endorser wise, now I was going to have come up the Ibanez website, but as we're doing a few tests there, it was sort of spooking out my streaming software a bit. So I'm not going to go there because it'll end up messing things up. But I was going to go there because it had a big list of all your endorsers. You know what? I've got another computer right beside me, which I'm going to turn online and have a look at some of the list of current endorsers, because you got a lot as opposed to just the actual models. While I'm waiting for that to load up, because it was offline, I've just got to turn it on. What is the difference between the Prestige and the Premium line?
It's just where they're manufactured. Prestige has been made in Japan, and the Premium line is the top-notch line made in Indonesia.
Okay, so Prestige is Japan. Just taking notes here, like a good little boy. And the Premium is Indonesia.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I got to say, man, look at that. I said about turning the sound down, or else it confuse itself, and that just caught me out then. I could hear myself talking all of a sudden. Let me just turn that sound off there. So I went to a music store recently and had a bit of a play on a Premium. Mm-hmm. And the price was very affordable. The Australian dollar's pretty terrible. So in our money, it was like $1,600 or something. But the quality was absolutely outstanding. I couldn't believe how good that guitar was for the price. I've played other Indonesian guitars from other manufacturers, and it's not the same. It's not the same.
Okay, well.
How is it that the Ibanez Indonesian guitars are so good when other companies put them out of Indonesia? You'd be looking at it thinking, oh, the lights weren't working that day or something. The screw holes are out of line. Is there a particular factory they're using there that's really top notch as opposed to the others, or is it just a quality control thing?
Well, that's a good question, but I think it's like both holds true. Like, first part is that Hoshino very specifically selects with whom they want to work. So they do not just produce at the factory because they are able to meet a certain price point. So quality has to be par. And if a manufacturer cannot meet a certain quality level, then it's not really an option for Ibanez. So that is a big part. And also, I mean, the distributor network and sister company network for Hoshino as a mother company is so well established. Let's take Ibanez Germany alone. We have 12 or 14 people, sometimes fluctuates a little bit, that all day check guitars. So every single guitar that you buy is been hand checked by someone. So it could either take him 2 minutes, well, maybe 5. It could take him 15 minutes, but he will make sure that the guitar that he took out of like either the cardboard box or the case is ready to play when you receive it. And that is like a major point. I mean, it's a cost driver for sure, because you've got people that have to work there. It takes a lot of time. Sometimes it can hold you back from shipping the stuff, because nowadays, everyone is super impatient and they want to have the stuff ideally yesterday and not tomorrow. So sometimes it can be like a little bit of a bottleneck. But for Ibanez and also for us as a distributor, it is just a like key part of the overall value that Ibanez presents to the consumer, that you have every guitar checked. And I mean, we have a very rather small rejection rate of the instruments, which is good, which means that the quality level from the factory is already there. But still, not a single guitar will go out where we are not convinced that it is all right. And
Wow.
I think this is like a major part. And actually, there's a little bit of insight. We have an automated warehouse that organizes all the stock, because, I mean, the territory is quite big. But here's the thing: every guitar that's being QC'd is only like they get that little mark that it's QC'd, but that mark disappears after 6 months. So if a guitar sits longer in our warehouse than 6 months, it will be checked again before we send it out, just to make sure, because of the humidity level and temperature. Sometimes necks can warp, and sometimes the setup cannot be ideal. So we make sure that you get the utmost quality and the best possible setup if you buy it. And
That's
that is really
great.
part of the recipe. Yeah.
What's really funny there, Dan, is just as you started to say all that, somebody in the chat room there said, from day one, Ibanez were adapting their designs to put up with shipping to different climates, from the first Japanese classicals all the way to the rock solid AZ model, ahead of their time.
Yep.
So that was, as you were explaining that, somebody had chimed in and said exactly the same thing. So, yeah. Do Ibanez pleck their guitars, or is it all done by hand?
It is all done by hand. Actually, we've been looking into the whole pleccing process for a while, and because I'm convinced that it can make a good instrument even better. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the level of playability that we achieve with the guitars, we really came to the point where we said, well, it's not really that much of a difference. And if a consumer wants to pleck their instruments, it should be their decision. But for us as a company, they come from the factory already at a level where you say it's top notch. So there was no need to do that. But that being said, like, I think that the pleccing technology can be really like adding some playability to your instrument. So if you should happen to have a guitar that is like 10 years old and it somehow, through humidity, climate change, etc., has changed a little bit, I definitely recommend to having it plecked rather than cryo-tuned or whatever is out there. I think plecking is a good means to improve playability of the guitar. Yeah.
Now, I've heard some good and some bad things about plecking. I've had a friend who plays in a pretty famous band over here in Australia. When I mentioned it, he just shook his head and just went, oh, he put one of his guitars in. And this was a used guitar, not a brand new one. And I understand if you're doing it off a brand new one, the way that the pleck machine works is it looks at what the lowest fret is and will do everything off the lowest point. He had one very worn out fret, and he said he got his guitar back and it basically was a fretless almost. It just had nothing, and he had to get the whole guitar refretted. But I think that sort of comes down to the operator who did that. Also, there's a guitar builder over here, Charles Cillier, who I'd love to be able to afford one of his guitars. He just makes very high end stuff, but it's also comes with a high price tag. And he does it all by hand as well. But there are a lot of companies that have played the guitars that have been plecked, and there's a consistency about that. So I guess it comes down to who's operating the machine versus who's actually doing the fret leveling and everything. But
absolutely, yeah.
As I could say, Ben, I'm really blown away by the Indonesian, the premium line, and that's something that's on my list of things to get. And just you're saying about the necks shifting. I'm a Strat kind of guy. And I really want a Strat with a locking, a Floyd Rose. And so I went to play some Strats today at a music store, and there was a lot of the same model, but the actions on some of them were like this, and then the other one was down low and all that. And they had really adjusted to the different weather. I said we get nice warm weather here during the daytime, but it can get cold at night, and I think that had really messed with them. Now, Ibanez have got that whole multi-wood.
Mm-hmm.
How many pieces do they use in a typical neck?
Well, it depends from being a 3-piece neck up to a 13-piece or something.
And that's
on the base, like.
Wow. And that's a lot of stability, because I'm not sure if people are aware, but when you have multiple pieces of wood on a neck, especially if it's opposing grains, and then the glue, like the glue is quite often the strongest part. And that is probably where that stability comes through.
Yeah.
Ibanez haven't always done that, though, have they?
I'm not quite sure when they started doing that, but that kind of layered kind of multi-ply necks, that was something, like you said, when the whole detuning trend came up, and necks really were prone to warping and to, not being stable enough. And there's the KTS titanium reinforcement that Ibanez uses on some guitars. And, and like you said, the multi-ply solution is very sophisticated, because it gives you a lot of stability in the neck, and also like the playability is great, because those kind of open grain woods that you use, Wenge, for example, is a great wood, or Purple Heart is a great wood, and you could use it. Feels great. It's got that open pore kind of feel to it, so it almost feels like it's been played for a couple of years already. So that is definitely a key part. Yeah.
I don't have an Ibanez here, but I've got a Hamer, which is probably a 1990 or a 91 model. And that had they say a 5-piece neck, but a couple of those pieces are on the headstock. It's got one of those sort of hockey stick. So it's mainly a 3-piece. And that guitar, it just doesn't shift. Like I get a fret job done on that once every 10 years, maybe more. Maybe 15 years I've probably had it done. And it just doesn't shift. So that really does work, having the multiple different woods there, I think. Yeah. So we were talking about endorsers there, and I've got the Ibanez page open over here. Signature models.
Yes.
We've got, there's a lot. How many? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's like 20 endorsers there. Jake Bowen. I got to admit, I don't know a lot of these guys that are on there.
No worries. Neither do a lot of other people, because it's at some point it's so niche. But it's always been part of Ibanez to kind of develop those artists from their very early days. So we can discuss a few guys. Like if you want to talk about a few of those guys.
Yeah. I'm gonna zone in on just a few. I'm gonna zone in on a few. So Paul Gilbert. He's been a long time Ibanez guy. He's been playing them since that whole onslaught of Satriani, Vi, Frank Gambale. I'm just trying to think. He was using him back in the late 80s when I first started. Paul Gilbert. They were the big guys that I still sort of hear of today. There was a couple other guys that sort of but they're the main ones. So Paul. I'm having a look here. He's had his signature model with the fake F holes on there for quite a while now, huh?
That was the very first model, actually, the PGM 100. You put me on the spot here. In the late 80s when that came out, or early 90s. That was like the purple one with the pinkish F holes. That was the first signature guitar for him. And he was one of the big guys at that day whose ability, even at a young age, was already like beyond what you had seen anywhere. So and those kind of those days, the Shrapnel Records, I think that was the big label that had all the shredders on there. There were so many guys that were also Ibanez guys, and I'm super happy to see that quite a few of those survived and had a long and very, very, very vivid career. And Paul, he was a cool dude, and still is a great dude. Actually, there's a cool side story about the guitar. Did you know that the purple pinkish finish, the design, actually was not necessarily his idea? It was just like a color kind of suggestion from Ibanez.
Oh, really?
And he thought, well, that's pretty cool. Let's stick with that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Now he's got the Fireman model as well now, which is it's an Iceman but just flipped upside down.
Absolutely.
That's pretty
so cool. Yeah. Do you know a story behind that?
No,
that is Paul is a very computer savvy guy, so he knows how to use Photoshop and stuff like that. So he kind of experiments a lot with different designs and how would the guitar look like this and with that finish. And he took an Iceman and just flipped it over. And he thought, well, that is super cool. Why hasn't anyone thought about like flipping the guitar over? Because then it gets the total like different design. So he made a few adjustments and talked with the guys at the LA custom shop how that could turn into a guitar. And that's also why it's called the Fireman, because it's like the opposite to the Iceman.
Cool.
So it's basically a kind of Photoshop coincidence. Yeah.
Wow. Now I have opened up my web browser and I am going to try and go to the split the share screen, and hopefully this
right.
doesn't completely crash everything, and just to have a look what else is on there. Oh, look at that. Yes, we can see that. And we've got you in the corner as well. We don't need to see you in the corner. I'll get rid of you there. There you go. So,
yep.
Who else we got? There's Paul Gilbert. I got all these other windows in the way.
For instance, are you aware of Martin Miller?
Martin Miller, yes, I did see him at NAMM, and he's quite often seen playing with Tom Quayle.
Yeah, and he's got a great channel where he does those kind of session covers. He invites guys like Paul Gilbert, Andy Timmons, Mark Lettieri, those kind of guys, and they do songs like, I don't know, Gary Moore songs or the originals from the artists with a super cool session band, and they play that live. Like they do like 3 or 4 takes. And then they take the best take, and that's it, and that's the video. So it's a cool live vibe, and it's like the musicianship is just beyond belief, really. That is super cool.
Cool.
And he was instrumental in designing the AZ line. If you don't mind, like shifting the attention a little bit to a more, let's say, contemporary model.
Yeah. I just wanted to check before you go any further. If anybody's watching there, when I did cut to the screen share and had that up, could you still hear Dan talking? Because I have had that in the past where when I cut to that, that the audio dropped out. But on my little meters, it said that you were still going. So hopefully it did. But you've got the AZ there, have you?
Yeah, this is
Let's have a look at that.
Regular production. That's an Andy Timmons signature guitar, but it's based on the AZ line, so it shares the same specs and the same shape. So basically, the AZ was designed to be a guitar from like considering all the needs of a modern musician from A to Z, hence the name. And Martin was one of the few guys that were very, very instrumental in designing the instrument. Like they tried out different necks, they tried out different finishes, they tried out different pickup combinations. They had different shapings of the overall body, and basically they narrow it down to what those guys like Tom Quayle, Martin Miller, Lee Ray, Marcus Fogley, those kind of artists, what they liked basically, and that was like the culmination of all of their needs and all of their desires. And it's like the modern player's player guitar, a modern player that wants to have a different vibe, not too like progressive, but a little bit more vintagey, but with modern specs.
I was just saying, I was looking around for a Stratty type guitar. That might just fit the bill there. Where is that one made?
That one is made in Japan, but there's also a premium line that shares 80% of the specs. It's just a little bit different because the premium line of the AZ uses basswood instead of alder, which gives it a totally different tonal character. Like the basswood guitars, the premium ones, we have a lot of artists in our territory that actually prefer the premiums because the basswood is that kind of rock and roll tone. You have the Marshall, you dial it on 11, and that guitar, and you can go. It's a no frills instrument. Whereas the alder, the prestige models that usually come with alder, they are more like hi-fi, more like well balanced from the lows to the highs.
Okay.
To put it that way, whereas the premiums are a little bit more mid-focused, which can be a big part of your sound. So it really comes down to your personal taste. Yeah.
Is it the same hardware on both the Prestige and the Premium?
The pickups are the same. The tuners are the same. The only difference is the tremolo, because on the Prestige AZs, it's a very thick tremolo block, whereas and it's a steel tremolo block, whereas on the AZ Premiums, it's a zinc tremolo block that's a little bit thinner. But that being said, the thickness of the tremolo block really is not an indicator for how well those guitars resonate. So I highly recommend people just to try out. What we did when Martin was at our showroom, he wanted to get another guitar of his MM1 signature guitars. What he did, we blindfolded him, and he tried out like 8 different MM1s. And then we narrowed it down to the top 3, and then he found his guitar with it being blindfolded. Just listening to his ears and his fingers and his kind of gut feeling.
Wow.
So that's always the best. That's always the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said a lot of that comes from Martin Miller was very instrumental in designing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tom Quayle, big time.
Tom Quayle. Now, I did get to actually play Tom's actual guitar at 42 Gear Street when we threw together a little guitar battle, just a last minute thing. I had some time booked in the main room, and I remember talking to Dave Friedman going, dude, I'm on soon. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he just looks at me and goes, I want to see a guitar battle. Tom Quayle versus Savvy. And I just went, do you reckon Savvy will do it, man? It's a big ask to go up against Tom Quayle. And he goes, I'll make him. And they did. And it was great. Yeah. But I got to sit beside Tom as he was warming up. And to hear him, if anyone hasn't heard Tom Quayle play the guitar, check him out. Like his legato and stuff is just, it's amazing. But and also check out the video on my channel of the guitar battle between him and Sammy Bowler.
Yeah.
He actually gave me his guitar to have a play because he tunes his guitar funny. He doesn't do it the traditional way. He does it all in fourths. So
correct.
Low to high, E, A, D, G, not B, C, E, A, and F.
Correct.
Yeah. So
that is a totally different map. You're lost when you
it
try
is,
it out
but it
for the
isn't.
first time.
I remember saying to him, "This is to eliminate that one step because there is a when you play three note per string scales, there's this revolving pattern all over the neck.
It adds symmetry, but you got to get rid of all those kind of old shapes that you have somewhere in your brain.
It messes with your chords. That's the only thing. Like he was trying to show me how to play basic chords, and it took me a second to get it. And I've actually got a video on my channel as well. If you guys go have a look of him trying to explain to me, no, this is how you'd play. So he'd play like an E chord, and then he goes, okay, now just move it down. Instead of being A minor, that's actually how you play A major. And you move it down another. There's your D, and it was just like, hang on, what? Oh, boom, kind of get it. But to sit beside him as he was warming up and just hearing his fingers slapping against the stainless steel frets, just, and I actually got my phone in there and stuck it right up in between, next to his picking hand, and oh my God, amazing. So we should actually, I'm going to have a look and see if I can find his signature guitar. So we're talking about all these different guys' guitars. Where is Tom? Has he got a new model coming out? There's
nope.
Tom.
Everyone was asking that. No, it's just a one-off.
Just a one-off.
He was interested. Yeah, he was interested in having a guitar with a nitro finish. So this is a first for Ibanez to kind of apply nitro finishes on a guitar like that. And he went with a very, very vibrant color and different pickups. These are Bare Knuckle, Stormy Monday, and Mother's Milk pickups, which sets a little bit apart from his regular production model because the TQM1 comes with the Seymour Duncan Hyperions. Okay. So different tone. I mean, he's experimenting all day, and he's a musician, so he needs different tones and a wide palette of options to create his tones and sounds. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah,
I saw he posted something on Facebook. I think I've got a handle of my controller is messing up, but I've found how to get back. So it's got our names down the bottom when I'm showing the screenshots, but that's okay. We can work around that. Now, looking at some of your other endorsers there, the signature models, it's confusing because I've got a little screen. I've got little screen things covering it, so it's easier for me to actually look over here and see them all.
All right.
Paul Gilbert. Kiko. I've heard of him. Who does he play with? He's Megadeth?
He's in Megadeth, yeah.
Okay.
He's playing a band called Angra, which is a South American, like very big in South America. Mm-hmm. But because he's from Brazil, and when he joined Megadeth, it just everything blew off. He was so big all of a sudden, and he's got a great channel. He's got a great bilingual channel on YouTube as well, where he gives some lessons and he shares some insights on his daily routine in the studio too. So he's a great artist to have, and his signature guitar is stunning.
Cool.
The Kiko 200 is super cool. It's a made in Japan guitar. It's a carved top, HSH pickups, and it's a really, really nice model.
Okay, I'm going to try and just bring that up so we can actually see that. There's the Kiko.
Yeah, it's got a 5-piece neck, Wenge and maple, so that feels pretty nice. Super triple A or 4xa quilt maple top on a lightweight mahogany body, ebony fretboard. It's a super cool guitar.
Now, I'm actually colorblind. I'm red-green colorblind. Is that picture there? Is that a green flame maple top with the black?
Yeah,
I love that color. And I say I'm colorblind, but I can see it like up close, but because I'm looking at that small, it's very hard for me to see. They make stunning guitars. I've actually got a blank Warmoth body here that I want to stain and do a green dye, not stain, dye.
All right.
I've done my own back there. I'm not sure if people can see. No, there's things in the way, but yeah, I've done some of my own over the years. And that's a lot of fun. Popping the flame. I'm gonna go grab it.
Yeah,
Need to show off some of my guitars. Probably a little bit Ibanez inspired, actually.
cool.
This one here.
Wow.
That was just I dyed that, then sanded it back to make that flame pop. But I did toy with the idea of going over that in a green afterwards. But I have another blank body there. I just don't have a neck and all the rest. It adds up to buy quality parts. Really does add up price wise.
Yeah.
But
what bridge are you using on that guitar? Is it Wilkinson?
No. This one is a Super V.
All right.
Blade Runner Super V. Yeah. Don't know if you know about those. Awesome. They have. There's a little piece that connects. It's going to try and focus on my eyes. I have to hide my eyes. That connects the bit that bolts to the body to the rest of it. Is this aircraft grade aluminium that flexes. It's a very different kind of design, but I can get a lot of abuse out of it.
Cool.
With locking tuners.
Very nice.
Now, I'm just going to have a look at some more of the signature models that you guys have got there.
Mm-hmm.
So we had
I mean, green is definitely a trend color at the moment, because if you look at the lineup, the JB Brubaker guitar is green, the Luke Hoskin model is green, Kiko's guitar is green, Marcus Fogley's guitar is green, Yvette Young's guitar is sparkly green. So it's it's a green period at the moment. Yeah.
So, and I've also noticed that a lot of the classic car colors from the 50s and 60s are also back. I'll go into music stores and see what's the green that I keep seeing. There was a particular name for it. Name escapes me. But okay, I was going through your endorsers over here. Noodles. You still got Noodles?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a cool dude. Yeah.
Okay.
I think everyone who was born in the 80s kind of grew up with The Offspring, right?
Yeah. So I'll just bring up Noodles there, and I should be able to change my little screen there. Boom, there's...
He's one of the... He always passes on the torch of the Tallman guitars, because Tallman is not like a regular production model anymore.
Yep.
But he's got the NDM5, the new Tallman like Noodle signature model, and also Yvette Young. She's the second artist on the roster that is a signature artist with a Tallman guitar. So they're keeping the Tallman alive, which is I think it's a great and very unique design. Yeah,
it is very much so. I remember when they came out in the 90s, and I thought they looked a bit funny, but everyone's tastes the difference. Now, the man himself, Satriani.
Oh yeah.
How can you not? Oh, look at that! There's a Chrome Boy too. Let me just go and change the screen so that people can see that. As I said, my friend Ben is in the chat. I'm not sure if you're still there, Ben, but he lent me a Chrome Boy like that to record a little cover with.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool guitar. Now, Satch has been playing Ibanez for as long as Steve Vai has, really, hadn't he? Well, just
Yeah,
afterwards, he started it, right? I think.
correct.
Vai
More
came up with
than 30 years now already. Yeah. Yeah.
And his guitar's gone through some changes. Like he's always had that shape. That was based on an old model, wasn't it?
Correct.
The Radius? No.
Correct.
It was a
Yeah,
Radius.
yeah. It was a Radius, yeah.
Okay.
There was the Power, there was the Saber, and the Radius. And the shape, actually, it's called Aerofoil. It's thicker on the lower bout of the body, and it's very thin towards the upper side of the body, like what sticks with your body, your belly, and So it's a very unique design. It's super comfortable.
Yes, yeah. Well, I appreciate comfort in a guitar because I was always a skinny guy, man, and like this is why I never liked Gibson guitars when I first started playing. A Strat just was molded to me and it fit in there.
Yeah.
And I'd pick up like a Les Paul or something, and man, it would hurt. Dig into my ribs and my little skinny forearms. So that's why I was always a Strat guy. But yeah, the Satriani one, man, he's gone through some pickups and configurations. Like I'm looking at a picture there, and that one's a 24 fret.
Nowadays, they're all 24. He shifted towards a couple of years ago. Like he used to play 22 frets, but I think what was it for some musical projects he needed like the 2 extra frets for his music, and from there he got used to it, and he stuck with it.
Okay. Now who else we got there? Wow, you still got Monkey from Korn.
Yep, correct. Yep. He has a signature model, a new one. It's called the Apex 300, which is actually the first signature guitar to feature an Evertune bridge.
What is the Evertune bridge? I keep hearing about these Evertunes. Now, tell me about the Evertune. I'm just going to go to the screenshot of that guitar.
Yeah. Well, Evertune is a very unique system that is not high-tech. It's basically like baseline physics. It's like you set up with a couple of springs, you set up the whole tension of the strings, so whenever it should go out of tune, it will automatically retune itself, kind of. So it never can get out of tune. And the cool thing about Evertune is that you can set it up either in a way it cannot bend, so even if you stretch the string, the springs will do the job and even that out. So even if you do like a full tone bend, the note will sound like it's the original note without being bended. But you can also set it up in a way where just like it's super tuning stable and you can bend. And the beauty about the Evertune is that once you set it up right, like perfect, it's ideal for the studio work, because even like a couple cents off can sound weird in the studio. And if you have your guitars equipped with Evertune and they are all at the same level, like super, super, super precise, they ain't going to go out of tune. And you can take guitar A, guitar B, and do first track, second track, third track, and they will all sound in tune. And that is the magic. That's a true magic, because it's not necessarily for live purposes, because if a string breaks and guitar tech is having a hard time, or you don't have light, it can be a little bit messy. And also it takes out a lot of wood from the guitar. So it's not necessarily like the best for the tone, because it adds a lot of metal instead of wood. So it changes the tone. But really, when it comes down to nailing tracks in the studio and being in tune, Evertune is a great choice, and it's basically also the reason why Monkey was so insistent on having that on his signature guitar, the Apex 30.
Okay, so did you say
Apex 30? Yeah.
If you break a string, does it stay in tune?
I'm not sure actually. It should not. Should it? No, it should not, because then you lose the one string. I'm not quite sure how you set it up. If the strings can cope with the difference in string tension, it should stay in tune. But I'm not quite sure what happens if you lose like the low E string. That is a good question. I gotta admit, I have no clue. I haven't tried it. Actually, Evertune is so new. It's the first year that we have Evertune on these guitars, and I've shipped out my very first Evertune production model the day before yesterday to Martin Miller, because he needed it in the studio. So he is currently like trying and tweaking it on his to make sure that it fits his demands. So I haven't really had a lot of quality time to spend with it, but that's definitely on my bucket list, because like what I hear from other musicians and what I hear from studio guys, they're all over the moon with the Evertune system. So that's definitely something I got to check out. And
cool. Now I've seen that, just looking through that, Paul Stanley. Still got old Paul Stanley on there.
Absolutely, and Paul Stanley.
Is that one of the original Icemans?
Yep. Yep,
He was one of the
yep.
original guys
Actually,
playing one, wasn't he?
yeah, that became one of like his signature guitar almost instantly when that was out, and he joined Ibanez. He was, I mean, the Iceman is so often associated with him. It's kind of hard to differentiate what's like Iceman and what is the PS signature line. And he had like a brief tete-a-tete with another guitar company, but he was always associated with Ibanez because it's it's the first original Ibanez design, and he made it famous. And I mean, those guitars, especially with the cracked mirror finish, they are so unique. You can immediately, put that into the right spot and know, okay, this is the Paul Stanley signature guitar, and this is an Ibanez. So it's pretty cool that he's still with us.
When he did go to the other company, it was still the same shape, wasn't it?
Kinda, yeah, slightly off, but very much in that direction. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now here's a very popular one. Now, funnily enough, I know it's just over the other side a little bit. Sorry, I've got screens covering everything on this one. Yeah, but I've just found it. Nita Strauss, her new Jiva. Is that what it's called? Yes, Jiva.
That is correct, Jiva. Yeah, and she has 3 signature guitars for this year. Like we had the Jiva 10 that's been introduced 2018. Yeah. And for this year, we have the Jiva X and the Jiva Junior, which basically is a slightly cheaper guitar that comes without the signature pickups, because they add a lot to the overall costs. And then she's got the over the top-notch model. It's called the Jiva X, and this is made in Japan. It looks beautifully. It comes with binding. It's got the beaten heart inlay, which is very intricate and very fine. It's got a quilt maple top, like a massive top. That's the ultimate S model, basically. And I can tell that Nita was very happy with that. I mean, it's a gorgeous guitar. It looks great. It plays great, and that could become an instant classic for sure. But be careful, the Jiva X is limited. That was a spot model just for this year, so I'm not quite sure how that will translate or transform into next year. It will be available in the same way or with a different finish. I'm not quite sure how that will happen.
So looking at those, we're talking about various production models that became signature guitars for people. That's the, what do they call that? Not Sabre?
Yeah, S. It became Sabre. Like Sabre went into S because the Music Man had a trademark on the Sabre name. They had the Sabre bases, so Ibanez had to rename it, and they just shortened it to the S line. Yep. And Nita was always a big fan of the S line because it's so well balanced, and she's very active on stage, so she cannot deal with a guitar that weighs 10 pounds, and you have that around the shoulder for 3 or 4 hours on stage.
Man, she is
that's definitely a plus.
I saw Alice Cooper a couple of years ago now, and man, she just owns the stage, doesn't she?
Yeah. Very, very good stage presence. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, now there's the Andy Timmons model.
Yes.
We mentioned that before. Let me just call that up and change this over here. I know what's gone wrong with my switching. I managed to see it. It was last night. I had a multi-band thing on with a few grunge tribute shows, and I changed a few things, and it just dawned on me why I was having issues now. Yeah, but I'm on top of it. I know how to fix that, but cool. I'm still able to get the screen up. So there's the Andy Timmons, and that's pretty much a modern Strat design, really, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I mean, it started with the AT100 in the early 90s when he was with Danger, and he played the Super Strats with double locking tremolos. And at that time, he was kind of coming up with his own tunes and wanted to kind of launch his solo career. So he kind of gravitated more towards a more traditional style, like a little bit more in the likes of Fender. And the AT100 is basically a modern rendition of a classical Strat design. Very baseline. It's an alder body. You've got a beautiful maple neck with very, very thin satin finish, so it wears off beautifully. And that guitar actually came out in 1999, so 7 years after he got the guitar first, as a very limited hand-built run that was exclusive to Japan and a few countries. Only 175 made, and they are beautiful. And then that went into production around 2005, if I'm not mistaken, 2006-ish, and became a regular production model made by Fujigen and in unlimited quantities, basically.
Okay.
And from there, we had like a wide iteration of it with an ebony fretboard. We had the AT10P, which is the premium version of it, which is slightly more affordable. And basically last year, we had the ATZ100, which is the AZ variant of Andy's signature guitar. And that comes with all the specs that the AZ is known for, with roasted maple neck. You've got lumen lace. You've got an alder body, a locking tuners. The only difference here is instead of the proprietary Ibanez Goto tremolo that's used on the AZ, Andy always wants to go with Wilkinson trem. So we have the classical I think it's called V6 Wilkinson trem. And he's known, his tone is very, very known for those kind of slightly overdriven tones. And when you dial back the volume, it gets that kind of sweet sound. Yep. So he's using the Masio Cruisers. And in the original AT100, he's got a humbucker on the bridge and two DiMarzio Cruisers that are supposed to go on the bridge, but he has it in the neck and the middle position. So it's basically a bridge humbucker in single coil format that he uses in these positions. But for the ATZ, he went to give it a little bit different flavor. So he went with an cruiser that is actually supposed to go in the bridge and is in the bridge. And we have in the middle and the neck position, we have a cruiser that's supposed to go in the neck. So it's a little bit different tone compared to the regular AT100, but beautiful. And I'm a big Andy Timmons geek. If you look at the background, hopefully you can see it. Yep. This is like the first sheet of Electric Gypsy.
Oh, cool. Cool.
So that is a sound and Andy's like attitude as a player and his technique and his music always was something that I totally fell in love with, and actually would also like caught my interest because he was releasing back in the mid 2000s. He was releasing a lot of videos with Mesa Boogie about his tone, and that was kind of what sparked the interest in me. That wow, there's a whole industry behind that, and they do like gear rundowns, and there's interest in the public out there. There are people watching that on the internet, and that kind of it dawned on me during that time. Well, that might be a interesting business field too. So it was somewhere in the back of my head. Yeah,
Andy is actually.
If you don't,
I was going to say, Andy is somebody that I'd love to have on the show. I've been trying to find a contact to get him on because I did meet him briefly at NAMM a couple of years ago. I was walking along, and you've been to NAMM. You know what it's like. On the trade-only days, it's just everywhere you go, you're sort of standing and you look beside you and go, oh, my God, you're Steve Lukather, or oh, my God, you're Andy Timmons. And I did get a photo with him, and he seemed like a lovely guy. But I did play, I'm not sure which version you had at 42 Gear Street, but I know there was an Andy Timmons model there. And that was my pick of the Ibanez that you had there that day.
I think that was my private guitar.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Actually, now that I say that, I remember saying to you at the time, man, this is the one that I really like. And I think you said that. That's my own personal guitar. Yeah.
Well, I played it for 20 years, so it should be different.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Was there a couple there? Because the one I remember I thought it had a roasted maple neck, and they weren't roasted maple back then, were they?
No. That is a new feature. I'm not quite sure if I brought the ATZ one. I'm sure I brought my personal guitar because I'm in the hotel room. I always like to be able to play a little bit at night. Yeah. But next time we see it at 42 Gear Street, I'll make sure to bring my personal one and this one. So nice. Okay. You can AB properly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to see who else we got here. Oh, we got Steve Vai, of course. And we've looked at the gem. Let me just call up the new picture of just hit this little button right here, and we can see the new Pia.
Yeah.
Which is an evolution of the gem, really, isn't it? It's
Yeah. That's very well said. It's basically taking the gem into the year 2020 and also making it fit to Steve Vai's personality more, and because he matured too, and he developed, and he wanted just something slightly different. And like you said, it's not a revolution, but it's definitely an evolution.
Now, I'm just having a look. He's still got available quite a few different gems there. Even down to there's a blue floral pattern one now, right? Mm-hmm. man, when I was a kid, when I was just learning to play guitar, the original floral patterns, oh my God, I just thought that was the best thing ever. And even now, I would love to have one of those. They go for quite a lot of money. They were wrapped in fabric that were his curtains, I believe, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And therefore, I'm assuming you can't get the same print anymore because they just couldn't find the same curtain material. The blue's very, very similar. Is that wrapped in fabric as well? The blue ones?
Nope. I think already because the one that you're showing here is the premium version, so this is like printed. And I think back in the day, the original floral pattern, the blue floral pattern, was also no longer fabric, but it was a print, very thin print that looked like fabric.
Okay.
Yeah. But those were gorgeous too. I mean, the combination of the maple fretboard with, that bluish kind of look, those were gorgeous. And they are super hard to find nowadays. So it's a very good investment, but that's a totally different story.
Wow. Wow. That does look absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I always wanted one of those. Something just popped into my mind. There's a rumor that Evo, his number one that you've got the replica of there, was actually a floral pattern. Have you heard that? That got
Not
stripped.
at all. But
that could be just something I read on the internet, maybe. But there is a classic photo of Steve from the Ibanez ads where he's kind of holding the guitar like this, and he's kind of looking. You just see his silhouette of his face. And I've seen it said that was that actual guitar, but somehow along the way they stripped it. And
okay.
You know what?
That's a cool story. I didn't know, but
you know what? That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Why?
Show me the back of the one you've got there.
Let's see. There you go.
It's a different neck joint. Different neck joint.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you never. Yeah.
They used to have the square with a plate.
Yeah. And that's the all-access neck joint. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you never, with Steve, you never know what kind of prototypes and body shapes he was using because the all-access neck shape is not something that was developed over time. So, I mean, he's got such a big collection, and Thomas Nordic, his guitar tech, he's so innovative when it comes to stuff like that. I mean, you never really know what you're getting with Steve and what he's playing. He's surprising all the time.
An absolute
innovator. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he found a guitar like that even looks stunning and has a swirl finish or a floral pattern finish or something, and he says, "Well, I think it might sound better without the top coating or something." That he would just have someone strip it down. I mean, it's Steve Vai. He can.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now there was one more endorser there, signature model artist there that I've just called up a picture of, and that's Yvette Young.
Yeah.
Now. Yvette, I happened upon across on the internet a few years ago and just went, oh my God, how amazingly original. And you can see there in the picture, she's got the capo on her guitar there. Guitar styles.
She does, yeah. She comes from the piano actually, and this is why she learned. When she approached the guitar, she had no expectation on how to play it. So she just approached it like a piano, and he plays a lot of tapping and slides with the fingers, which creates that unique tone. But like you said, she uses different tunings and has the capo and shifts that back and forth just to make sure that everything is fitting to the fingerings that she needs for the song. But she's that is part of why she's so unique. She's a great innovator in guitar too.
Wow. I just had a bit of a close-up look at that. So it's a green sparkle. As I hovered above that, you could see the...
Holy moly, yeah.
The
that sparkle is sparkle. Yeah, that's really sparkly.
Yeah. And again, that's based on the Tallman, like noodles, yeah?
Yeah, not like the new noodles, because the new noodles model is another development or iteration of the Tallman, but just like the original Tallman shape that she's using. And I kind of find it interesting that she, as a modern and very progressive player, is gravitating towards such a kind of traditionally looking guitar. I mean, it's quirky, it's off, it's a little bit like a Jack Stang or those kind of grunge associated guitars.
Yep.
But still, it's very kind of traditional. It's not like a race car of a guitar. So I like that. It's a nice contradiction to some degree. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. No, it's beautiful. So, any new models coming out that you're allowed to talk about, or is there some things? So, do you sort of keep things pretty guarded as to what you guys are working on? Yeah.
Yeah, usually we do that. So I cannot spoil any surprises. The only thing I can say is that we have a lot of cool stuff in the making, like in all fields. We just released the EHB, the electric headless basses for 2020. They just hit the market. The reception is pretty good. So that was a big development for Ibanez. And usually and it was the second big development after the AZ line that was kind of really built from scratch. So you take a empty sheet of paper and then you design, okay, what are we going for? So those kind of developments, they take time. So we have those kind of 150, 200 models each year that come with different finishes and slight variations in the specs. But if you design a whole new instrument, it can take like a couple of years. So there are a couple of exciting projects, but even if I'd say something about those, it wouldn't be a guarantee that they get released in 2021, because the quality has to be there. And until the artist and the R&D guys say, okay, now it's spot on, now we can release it. Before that, nothing gets released. And that's also a big part of why Ibanez is such a cool brand, because they want to, they want to have that quick shot and quick market attention, but the product fails. They really want to be behind the product. And with the AC line and the EHP bases, those are new developments that really, stick to that kind of agenda. Like I said, we have a couple very exciting projects for 21 and 22, but I'm sorry, I cannot say more.
That's okay. Now, what I did want to ask you about was, you've been posting some really cool photos on Facebook lately.
Yeah.
And I wasn't real sure. You said about speccing different woods and fretboard radiuses and things. It was a custom shop. Were you building virtual guitars online, or were they actual real pictures of guitars? What was that all about? Because I think Henning was confused about that as well. It was like, man, are these real guitars? What's going on here?
Henning wanted to know if I bought that guitar. Yeah, actually, on my Facebook and even more more often on my Instagram, like almost every day, or basically every day, I post a picture of cool guitars. And I'm in the very good position that I have a lot of friends that own cool guitars and send me pictures, and our artists send pictures, and also I have the chance to design stuff. And those guitars, they were actually spec'd by me, because there's a so-called Japan custom shop program that's currently open, I think, for Europe and Japan only so far. But you never know what the future will bring. And what this program is actually about is you can have your own RG built with your own specs. So there are certain options, like certain pickup combinations, pickups, certain neck shapes, a lot of more than, I think, 100 finishes you can choose from, different woods. So it's a big bouquet of options, and basically you can select what you want, and at the end of the day they will build your instrument at the custom shop, which is super cool, because I think there hasn't been an opportunity like this ever. And they have a very high price tag, to be fair, but what you get is really like top-notch quality. It's like if it's the pinnacle basically of Ibanez guitar. It's the perfect RG. If you know what you want, because this is always the danger of speccing your own guitar. If you choose woods that might sound cool, but you have no reference, you can easily get disappointed. So I highly recommend, before you spec that guitar, to find a reference that goes at least a little bit in the direction. Because with the neck shapes, you know how the neck shapes with Ibanez are. With the pickups, you know what to expect from, let's say, DiMarzio, Air Norton, and Tone Zone. But the wood combination is really the crucial part. So I recommend to try that out for yourself. And then if you then want to create your ultimate RG, then if you're in Europe or located in Japan, you can go to a dealer and ask for the Japan Custom Shop program. Okay. And that's pretty cool.
Nice, very nice. They were beautiful looking guitars. Actually, a friend of mine, Ben, that had the Chrome Boy, man, he had this red. It was an RG style guitar, Ibanez, and it looked very much like one of these custom ones. I'm not sure what particular model, but Ben, if you're still there, man, what you know about that guitar, was that a custom shop job? Because I've never seen one like it. It had all the beautiful inlays, the vine inlay, beautiful flame red top, but it just played like butter. Like it's one of those guitars where anything you think, you barely have to touch it and it just flows out. Folks, if you have any questions for Dan, please let me know now before I round things up. Sometimes it can take a while to get through all the questions. And J Custom is what Ben's saying that guitar was.
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
J Custom.
Is that the ones?
Yeah. I mean, J Custom is like basically the broad term for all the guitars that are like the even above prestige level. Mm-hmm. So they all mostly come with the Tree of Life inlay or the Vine inlay, and they have like the highest specs, AAA grade tops and stuff like that. And they used to be like small series of these that came out every year, and still we have them. And they range from they start at something like 2.5K up to 5 or 6K. But the unique part about the Japanese custom shop is that you can design your one-off instrument. And if you do the math, like statistics wise, there are more than 1 million of options that you can choose from. This neck and this wood and those pickups and this selector, and that's just unique because literally nobody will create the exact same guitar that you have. And the cool thing also, let me add that, because this is also a part of like the magic, you get to pick the woods. So if you decide you want a guitar, you go to your dealer, and then the dealer gets images from Japan, and you can actually pick your wood. You can say, okay, I want that poplar top, or I want that flame maple. And that is unique because it's your guitar, it's your choice, and it really becomes part of yourself if you can make conscious decisions on how the guitar is supposed to look like. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So as I say, folks, if you've got any questions, now's the time to ask them, because I'm about to ask Dan one question, and that is if you could have just one desert island Ibanez guitar, which one would you have? You can only have one.
Yep, I have one.
You look like you got one there. You got one there.
Yep.
Oh, I like this. I like it when they go to get something special. Let's see what he's got. What's he got?
I'm going to disappoint you because it's neither looking fancy nor.
That's okay.
Nor a
that's the original Andy Timmons.
That is correct, and it's got a super cool serial number. Serial number is 07007.
Wow.
Hope you can see that.
I can't actually.
Maybe if I hold it like this, no?
Is it like an imprint? Yes, you can just see it. Yes.
Super hard to see, yeah. But this guitar has been played for 20 years now. It's still in good shape though, but that's my go-to guitar. The neck is super worn in, so it feels like a well-played guitar basically.
Yeah.
And this is just my second me basically on the guitar.
Yeah.
So I got to make a confession. I was never a fan of those kind of classic guitars because my dad used to play back in the day a Fender Strat that looked pretty much the same. So naturally, as a kid, you don't really like what your parents like.
You want to rebel, yeah. You want something different.
You want to rebel,
Yeah.
So and I was never really a big fan, but that guitar basically blew me away just from its tone. And like I said, there are only 175, and in the 90s, I got to play one of these, and I totally fell in love with it. And I decided, okay, I gotta find one.
So
and
the
I was able to get that from.
The pickguard's slightly different shape, isn't it? Like on that one, it comes right down onto the lower horn. On the newer one,
correct, yeah.
It doesn't, does it?
Correct. So if you compare it A/B, which is funny because on Andy Timmons' original guitar, this little part
cracked off.
Goes to the screw cracked off, so it actually looks like on the AZ models.
That's what I thought.
So it's a funny coincidence, yeah. But like this is the Desert Island guitar, and I think most of the Ibanez maniacs that grew up with Ibanez, they have that one particular model that they always will gravitate towards and it will take to a desert island. And for me, it's definitely this one.
Ah, nice. So Poo Ninja in the chat room. Not sure if you know of Poo Ninja. He gets around. He follows all the big guitar YouTubers, and he's saying 5 springs in the back. And he says so he's not the only one. What gauge strings are on it? He wants to know.
10s.
10s. Okay.
10s, of course.
10 to 46.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like a fat bottom, but like in everyday playing if you play various styles. And like I said, sometimes I play a little bit of finger stylish stuff. And if you want to do the Mark Knopfler thing and you do with the thumb here, I prefer the 46 compared to the 52s. But I recently started using the Ibanez balanced tension strings. I was dealing with the Dario a couple of years ago, and the whole balanced tension idea was something that I really grew on me. And luckily, Ibanez now also have those kind of strings, and I'm using these, and they are pretty cool because the string tension across all 6 strings is pretty similar. So if you do like the full tone bend, it's almost equal amount of force that you have to put into the string.
You just reminded me. I tried those. I think I got a set at 42 Gear Street.
Very likely, yeah.
Yeah. No, I really liked those. And you know what else I really liked, man? I mentioned earlier that I'm colorblind. I stopped using D'Addario strings in the early 90s when they went with their whole environmentally friendly packaging. Because put me on a stage and I've got a broken string and I've got to pull out a packet, the coloured ball end thing is useless. Yeah. Absolutely useless to me. Oh, you can feel the different ones. No. But when I went to open up those Ibanez strings, I went, they're not in individually marked out packets like I usually need. And then I saw that each string had a little piece of paper wrapped around it that said E, A, D. And I just went, yes, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. So I was very, very impressed with that.
Cool.
Yeah. So Ibanez strings, there's Ibanez picks as well. Do they make picks?
Yeah. They are made in Japan, so they are very good quality, and we have quite a few artists. I think Kiko has a signature set of strings. George Benson has. There are Steve Vai and Paul Gilbert signature picks. So it's a vast array of various picks and shapes and formats, and that's pretty cool. John Schofield too, I think. Yeah.
Wow. So
Ibanez is basically everything. We have amps, we have picks. There's a big segment of jazz boxes, the bass segment, even the acoustic guitars. I mean, we have so many great young players. Those kind of fingerstyle players that do the clapping and slapping on the guitar. We have so many great talent. There's one guy in the States, Marcin Pachawek. It's a Polish guy who won. He went semifinal or final in America's Got Talent. He's from Poland, and he's one of those dudes. He plays an Ibanez AE 900 acoustic guitar, and he does magic with it. This guy is Marcin. Check it out. Marcin. He's a great dude, like late 19 or early 20 years old, and so much talent in such a small person. That's incredible.
I just remembered that back in 2001, I was playing guitar for a guy that was a pop artist signed with Sony, and we're doing a lot of TV stuff, so I got to pick and choose a lot of loaner guitars for all the TV stuff. And I went, the people at Australis, who are your, I think they're still the distributors over here in Australia. I went there to check out some acoustic guitars, and they had a 7-string acoustic. And I had a lend of that for a month or two. And I only just clicked, as you were talking then, my intro music to this Chit Chats with Git Cats, which you couldn't hear when we were going, but if you were to go back, you'd see it, the minute intro. That song was written on a 7-string Ibanez acoustic with the low B.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. I just clicked to that. It was like, because I can remember picking it up and just
so cool.
Just thinking 7-string acoustic. That's so different. And that was the first thing that came out. And the song that I've got is actually like a very breakbeat electronic kind of thing, but that chord progression and the guitar was actually written on a 7-string Ibanez acoustic.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That's a great story.
Yeah. So I really have focused mainly on electric, but you guys have got acoustics, really nice acoustics, amplifiers, pedals. Man, let's not forget, there's some classic pedals.
Oh yeah, the Tube Screamer in all of its variations. Like we had the new Tube Screamer with the little cork new tube. We had the super cool TSV, the Vamarim. That was a cooperation between the Japanese Vamarim company and Ibanez. That was a great pedal. I think it was super limited to I don't know how many pieces, but not too many. So that was super cool. That's an always on pedal. I have so many artists that bought one of those TSV 808, the Tube Screamer Vamarin pedal. It's like a Tube Screamer that is not too mid focused, so it adds a little bit more in the lows and also in the treble frequencies. And like that's a great pedal that can turn a good amp into a great amp.
Cool.
That is super nice. Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah, and apart from that, I mean, like you said, there's basically something for everyone and also for every price tag. But the key point really is to enthuse people about playing the guitar, no matter if it costs $200 or $2,000. And we're striving so much. It's the same. Like when I post pictures, it's to enthuse people, to give you your daily doses of gas. And we work with music schools and we work with young musicians, and we have a lot of artists on the roster. It's really a mission. It's not just like, of course, there's a business aspect to it, but it's also like a mission that you are on as a guitar manufacturer and also as a distributor that works with them to make sure that the guitar is not dying and people are enjoying it.
Cool, yeah. Cool. Now, there is a question here from Ben asking, what style do you like to play and who do you like to emulate?
Well, like I said, my big hero is Andy Timmons, but I'll probably never be even close to 1% of his capability. But I like to play like a lot of styles. Actually, I'm more gravitating towards playing with fingers. So like Knopfler Diostrates, that's something that floats my boat. And we had that earlier before we went to live. I come originally from a blues background because I had an older friend who was a big blues player with, he played the harp too and slide guitar. So he introduced me to Robert Johnson. And those old Robert Johnson recordings, when I was 16, 17, hours and hours, they went on Hellhound on My Trail and Me and the Devil Blues and those kind of...
Nice, yeah.
That kind of stuff, that is something that I really like. It's something that, if you wake me up at night, that's probably one of those songs that I could play immediately.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's my musical background. No shredder, sorry.
No, it's funny because when I hear people playing those blues standards, those little turnarounds and stuff, I never did learn those, and I'm always impressed. Anybody that plays different to me, like there's guys out there that play the same 3-note per string arpeggio thing that I've been doing since the 80s, and it just doesn't impress me. It's like, yeah, that's the same old that I'm sick of in my own playing. So when I hear somebody that's different and just playing some of that old Robert Johnson style, yeah, it makes my ears go, oh, hello, what was that? That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it always blew my mind that he invented that like that early, and those recordings, they sound like two people are playing with each other. It's not just that there's one person in the room. Yeah. And that's really something with the devil.
Yeah, I always laugh that I can't play anything on my own. I always need accompaniment. Someone gives me a guitar and go, oh, play me something. Do you want to give me like a backing track or something to play over? Yeah. And talking to Thomas Blug, I asked him the same, and he said the same thing. He said people always say to him, oh, can't you just play me like a Christmas song or something?
Yeah.
And I had to laugh because my mum was always the same. Hey, can't you play a Christmas song? Or just like, oh, no, I'll play a Eruption.
I'm telling you a true story. It took my grandpa is a very nice dude, but he's very critical. And I started playing the guitar at the age of 7. I think it took me 20 to 22 years until I got my first compliment from him.
Really? Hard man to impress.
Absolutely. But that was one of those days, there are days and there are days. And when you went there and he said, well, that's a super nice tune. I was like, whew, made it. Yeah.
So what do you reckon, folks? Dr. Dan. It is Dr. Dan. And I'm not just making that up. What do you have a doctorate in, man?
International management.
International management.
Yeah. Man, so I'm one of the bad business guys.
I'd be, man, if I was a doctor, I'd just be dropping that all the time. Yeah. Dr. Rick.
Yeah. For you, it's doctor. No. Well, in the music industry, it's less useful than when you're working as a lawyer or in a bank or something. That's for sure. But it's a nice twist. And I make fun. A lot of people make fun of that too.
Dr. Dan sounds better than Dr. Rick. I think the two Ds. Yeah, that just has a really cool ring about it.
Nice
So,
alliteration. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What do you reckon, folks? How's Dan's knowledge been on Ibanez? It's been, I mean, not only does he work for the company, but you can tell you were well and truly a fanboy that found his calling. And
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, and I think it just goes to show when people are passionate about the products that they represent, it makes the world of difference. You know,
Absolutely, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like
It's getting up every morning and just thinking, yeah, I want to get up. I want to go into the company. I want to check my emails and talk with guys and gals, and that's super cool. I'm very blessed,
and to know
yeah,
your
I
stuff,
gotta.
man. I tried to get a real job towards the end of last year, and I got a job working for a hearing specialist place.
All right.
Yeah, that I used to buy my molded earplugs through them. Never again. It was funny to go to work at this place, and they were in all the shopping malls, and they'd have hearing tests. The whole idea is they were just trying to sell hearing aids to people because there's a lot of money in that. And I realized within a couple of days of being there that nobody was passionate about hearing or hearing protection or anything like that, or knew the first thing about it. And I recall hearing this lady who was the manager of that store sit somebody down and do the whole hearing test and then try and explain the frequency chart to them. And just the utter bull crap that came out of her mouth. Because these people they're talking to don't understand frequencies and things, right?
Yeah.
And this lady who had a voice like the nanny, she talked like this. She had this one of those voices, right? And I can remember her explaining to somebody who on the chart it said you could see that there was a roll off from about 4K, and she said to this person, "Oh, yeah, that's your high pitched women's voices around there. Yeah, men's voices that's around." And then she said around the 1000K. And I'm thinking, no, lady, it's 1K or 1,000 cycles. And I just heard this explanation. And seriously, you try and get no. She called that a male tenor voice. She said a male tenor voice is around the 1000K. And I'm thinking, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, there is no way that you could get a male tenor to sing a 1K test tone. Like, very hard for them to get there. And I said to her afterwards, this explanation you're giving, were you taught this? And then she just threw this other absolute utter rubbish at me, trying to talk technical, thinking that I didn't understand. And I just thought, wow, nobody here understands a thing about this company they're representing. Mm-hmm. Even the audiologists that work there, I can remember talking to this lady, said, "Oh, you're an audiologist. I want to know noise cancelling headphones like I'm wearing right now. Is the fact that it's got microphones, it's picking up the outside signal and it's putting that back in but out of phase. So is that effectively doubling the sound pressure on your head? Therefore, is that like bad to wear them?" And this woman just looked at me like, "Oh, they didn't teach us about that in university. That's got nothing to do with..." And long story, I met one guy at one of the stores, South African audiologist. Within talking 10 minutes with him, he said to me, "When are you starting your studies?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Man, you know so much more about audiology than anybody else in this company. You should be working here. You'd kick butt." And he was the only guy in that whole company I met that knew the slightest thing or was interested in representing that company effectively. So I bring that up. That was the long blah, 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 just to say it's so good to see somebody like yourself representing Ibanez and all the other brands under the Meinl umbrella. I've been focusing on Ibanez mainly because this is a guitar chit-chat show. But yeah, kudos to you, man, for just being so knowledgeable on everything, all the backstory and everything. That's why I really wanted to get you on here, man. And I'm so glad I did. So I want to thank you so much for your time, Dan.
Thank you, Rick. It was a pleasure.
Mate, I'd love to have you back on in the future if you're up for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a quick look in the comments there, folks, before I do round up. If there's anything else anybody wanted to ask, either Dan or myself. There's a lot of comments there just about not so much questions. Gabor's in the house from the super fun, awesome, happy time pedal show.
Oh,
and
greetings.
and he's saying he had a set of the George Benson 14s on a GB10, super heavy strings.
Woohoo.
Gabor, that's just weird. That's just weird, dude. I actually went down to 8s. I had issue with tendonitis in recent years, and my friend gave me a set of 8s recently, and they were amazing. I could play anything I could think of. I was only limited by my own knowledge and things that I could think, but technique wasn't a problem. I could play anything I could think. But then it made me realize I need to learn to think of more ideas. That was my only limitation. God, look at that. We've got a lot of people saying, great shows, Rick. They enjoyed this one, so other people are enjoying it. Oh, Poo Ninja, I get the best guests. Yes, I do get the best guests, don't I? I'm trying. Look, there's probably a few more there that I've missed. It's hard to keep an eye on that, but again, Dan, thank you so much, mate. I'm going to hit the button. You know what happens when I hit the button?
Cool.
You know what? I made a boo-boo. I used to have on my controller the start and end of the show. Well, there was a start, and it would turn into the end button. And I had Thomas McRocklin on here a couple of weeks ago, and I fumbled and dropped my controller and accidentally hit end broadcast right in the middle of him talking. And we had to, come back. But I have since got rid of that. All I have is my end screen. So when I do this and I go up to here and I hit this button right here, right there, right there. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.